Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session. Second one here for this Wednesday, September 1st, 2021. It's 2:02 p.m. My name is Ty Mentor, Chair of the Board. Commissioner and Vice Chair Gary Edwards is on our Zoom. And to my right is Commissioner Carolina Mejia. Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell's here. Our County Manager is excused this afternoon. Public can follow along on Thurston County YouTube channel. We have half an hour slated for today's topic, which is water and sewer utility code updates from our Public Works Department. Director of Public Works Jennifer Walker is here, and I'm going to turn this straight over to her.
Thank you, commissioners. So last briefing, we talked about the development standards for water and wastewater for the county systems. And now we are going to talk about the updating of the code. And so Torn is going to walk the board through those changes at a higher level, and then we'll seek permission to be able to move forward to public hearing. So I will turn it over to Torn.
Thank you. I will share my screen. Let's get situated. Okay, are you able to see the presentation?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon again, commissioners. We would like to update the board regarding the proposed updates to the county's water and sewer utility code, which concern Thurston County Code Chapters 1509 through 1513. And we're also here to request the board give Public Works staff authorization to submit an AIS for setting a public hearing for the proposed updates to the Thurston County Utility Code. And the agenda for this briefing will begin with some background regarding the Water and Sewer Utility Code and provide the case for updating this section of the code. Then we will provide an overview of the updating process followed, and then including some changes of note. We will follow this with the feedback that we received from the public comment period and the resulting changes based on that feedback. And finally, we will close with the proposed next steps for the utility code updates. So some of what you'll hear today is you've heard previously from the previous briefing, but it would serve as a nice refresher. And some background on the Thurston County Code, chapters 1509 through 1513 govern the county-operated water and sewer systems. Currently, the county operates water and/or sewer utilities in 4 locations across the county, servicing about 800 total connections. Those utilities are at Boston Harbor, Grand Mound, Olympic View, and Tamashan. And to provide some context on these chapters of the Thurston County Code, currently these chapters provide the process for the adoption of the development standards for water and sewer system, which were what we discussed in the previous briefing. And they set the conditions under which customers can connect to the county-owned utility systems, and they set the rates and fees for the utilities. And the purpose of these proposed code updates are to bring the code into compliance with the current revised Code of Washington, to implement industry best practices, to increase the ease of administration for utility staff, and to improve equity and implement customer-friendly policies. The goals of this process were to review the code for industry best practices, to streamline group-like concepts and to avoid repetition in the code, to separate rates and fees to be consistent with other Thurston County titles, to identify and implement changes for administrative improvements, and to fix errors and omissions in the code. The update process was a collaborative effort in which we brought in HDR, an engineering consulting firm, as water and sewer utility subject matter experts. During the update process, HDR provided recommendations based on industry best practices. And we also incorporated feedback from the Prosecuting Attorney's Office, the Public Works Financial and Asset Management Division, the Public Works Water Resources Division, the Public Works Engineering Services Group, and the Office of the County Engineer, as well as feedback from the Tamashan and Boston Harbor Utility Advisory Committees. So next we will go over some of the recommended code revisions. Please keep in mind that these are not all of the revisions. These are the revisions that will be impactful to customers. We will begin with reorganization of chapters 1509 through 1513. We're proposing to reorganize the chapters from 5 chapters down to 3 chapters and a resolution. This reorganization groups similar information together for ease of navigation and removes duplicate language that appears in multiple chapters, which might confuse people reading it. Some examples of duplicate language are that descriptions of payment responsibility, billing and due dates, interest and penalties, and liens all appear in both Chapter 1509 and Chapter 1510 of the current code. And before I get into this next slide, I would like to point out that underneath the title of the slide and all subsequent slides, there's a note that says code section. You can see that here. I think you can see my mouse, which refers to the proposed code section if you would like to see what the exact language reads or how the exact language reads. Now onto this slide regarding the adoption of the Water and Sewer Utility Development Standards. Under the current code, the Board of County Commissioners is responsible for adopting development standards for water and sewer systems, which were the standards discussed in the previous briefing. The proposed change is for the Director of Public Works to adopt these standards. The benefit of this is that it would allow for quicker response to changes in regulatory requirements. An example of this is the standards for the separation of potable and non-potable lines that have changed, but are currently not updated in the current development standards. And furthermore, this change would allow for quicker response to changes in proprietary technology. For example, air-vac standards for vacuum sewer technology has been updated since 2007, which is the last time our development standards were updated. And so we need to be able to quickly update our standards in response to revisions to proprietary technology standards. The next item is discharge limitations. Under current code, we have no ability to enter into agreements with significant industrial users, which we will call SIUs. Significant industrial users are premises with reasonable potential to adversely affect the treatment plant. Typically, we use the term upsets for wastewater that would adversely affect the treatment plant. A lot of the time with upsets, the effluent that leaves our treatment plants that then discharges into a local water body does not meet regulatory requirements. So the proposed change allows the county to enter into agreements with SIUs, who the Department of Ecology will not regulate, and puts the cost of developing these agreements onto the discharger. The benefit of these changes are that it creates an accountability process for the SIU's impacts to county facilities. It also protects the treatment plants and waterways to which we discharge effluent to. And the next item is the Certificate of Water Availability, which we will refer to as CAWAs. CAWAs are a document that we provide to the Building Development Center when, for example, a home builder is looking to connect to our system. This document essentially says that we have a connection available for that home, allowing the home builder to connect to the utility. Under current code, there is no certificate expiration process. So if the person in that initial scenario were to choose not to build a home despite having a CAWA, they would be sitting on a committed connection to the county's utility. The proposed change is to set expiration of a CAWA to 2 years after being issued or pending any permit, after which the CAWA would expire. This allows the county to put connections into service for other customers if the initial certificate expires. The benefit of this change is that it creates a process for unused CAWAs to expire, freeing up unused connections for others to use. This would also increase the utility customer base. As a note, properties located within the Utility Local Improvement District, or the ULID, keep their right to connect to the utility even if their CAWA expires. And for water use restrictions under current code, the county has the ability to limit outdoor water use only when a fire is being extinguished within the service area. The proposed change would allow the county to place restrictions on outdoor and non-domestic water use, such as irrigation or car washing. The benefit of this is that it enables the county to limit water use during droughts or in the event of an emergency impacting the water supply. This ensures that we can still meet basic human needs, including hydrating, bathing, and cooking, while also addressing public safety needs due to the emergencies. Interruption of service. Currently, when a customer is delinquent, the county is required to post 2 delinquent notices to the customer's property prior to shutoff. This means that county staff must physically go to the property and post the notices on their door. Additionally, the customer is charged $35 per posting to cover that staff time. The proposed change would allow the county to mail delinquent notices to the customer in lieu of posting these notices to their property using a door hanger. The benefits of this change are that the $35 fee per posting is eliminated when the notice is mailed, and that it reduces operator exposure to hazards such as dogs on the property they're visiting. We have had incidents in the past of staff being bitten by dogs when they attempt to post these notices to properties. Utility latecomer agreements. These are agreements that allow the recuperation of costs associated with the extension of water and or sewer mains from properties who benefit from these extended mains. For example, if a developer extended a water and sewer main to serve a property that they are developing, and then sometime later, other properties that are now fronting the extended mains are developed and connect to the utilities, they would then pay into that latecomer agreement so that the developer could recover costs related to the main extensions. Under current code, a latecomer agreement is not required. So an individual can request that the county enter into a latecomer agreement with them, but the county can deny that request. Also, the current latecomer agreement period is set at 15 years. So the proposed changes would require the county to enter into a latecomer agreement when requested and would increase the latecomer agreement period to 20 years. And both of these proposed changes would bring the code into compliance with the revised Code of Washington. Regarding the Grand Mound Water and Sewer General Facilities charges, we presently, like many other jurisdictions, use the Department of Ecology's Orange Book, which lays out the average water usage by type of facility, which we then translate into general facilities charges. Because the Department of Ecology does not cover all uses in the Orange Book, not all uses are present within Thurston County Code. An example of this is a movie theater. This is not an included use within our code, so we would have to go with the closest reasonable use. The proposed change would allow us to use industry data to determine general facility charges when a proposed commercial use does not exist within the table of uses in county code. This ensures flexibility for commercial facilities who might otherwise be charged a higher rate based upon the nearest reasonable use. So in the movie theater example, they may be charged pub or tavern rates, which are likely higher than what they would actually need for their theater. Next, we have the separation of rates and fees. Under current code, rates and fees are adopted by ordinance because they are embedded within county code. This requires a lengthy code update process for rate changes. The proposed code change would instead set the rates and fees by resolution. This change would match the process set by other titles, such as Title 13, and creates efficiency in rate adoption and alignment with the budget adoption process. The next item is monthly base rates for commercial customers. Currently, monthly base rates charged to our commercial customers is based upon the hire of either A, the average months above original equivalent residential units, which we call ERUs, of the prior 12 months, when 3 or more of those months exceed the number of ERUs purchased by the customer by at least half an ERU, or B, the original number of ERUs purchased. The proposed code change sets the rate based on the average of the 6 highest months of water usage. The benefit of this is that it removes the tie to the original ERUs purchased. It's much easier to administer for the county staff. It aligns with customer usage history, and it creates equity between customers. This change would also more accurately reflect system capacity needs. The next item is interest and penalties. Under current code, penalties are applied immediately following the payment due date, and additionally, the county has no low-income programs. The proposed changes allow the county to implement a grace period of 5 days from the payment due date before interest and penalties are applied. These changes allow the county the option to create a low-income senior citizen program, which would allow exemption from interest and delinquent penalties. The benefits of these changes are that they both provide added customer-friendly benefits to ratepayers, providing some relief from added interest and penalties due to late payment. So now we will go over the public process undertaken for the Water and Sewer Utility Code Updates project, which the Board of County Commissioners allowed Public Works to proceed with in April of this year. The public process included the creation of a web page on the Public Works website, which contained a draft of the development standards for review, a red line copy of the draft so that the precise code changes could be reviewed, as well as a chart of the impacts explained in this presentation. An online comment submission form was also created and made available on this webpage, providing a 30-day comment period, which ran from January 1st to January 30th of this year, for the public and customers to submit feedback regarding these proposed code updates. Finally, flyers were distributed to all Thurston County utility customers via mail inserts, informing them of the proposed updates and how they could get more information and provide feedback. During the comment period, we received 3 public comments and 1 internal comment regarding the proposed code updates. As a result of this feedback, the code updates were altered to set the monthly base rates for commercial customers using the average of the 6 highest months of water usage instead of the average of the 3 highest months of water usage that was described in the briefing in April of this year. And so now that the public outreach process has been completed and the feedback has been considered and applied, our next step is to set a public hearing in October or November of this year following the submittal of an AIS. And finally, the proposed adoption effective date would be January 1st of 2022. So that would be our last step. So the immediate next step is for Public Works staff to submit an AIS requesting the board set a public hearing. We are requesting board authorization to move forward with this AIS request so that a public hearing can be set in October or November of this year. And yeah, are there any questions regarding the utility code updates?
Yes, sir.
This story is very clear who would benefit from the law.
By any chance, have you had time to talk with other jurisdictions maybe that have made similar changes and possibly found out this works better, this other thing works better? We're making quite a few changes, and I just want to make sure that everything fits.
So after I took over this project, I did not reach out to other public utilities or the like to see if they've implemented similar practices. However, some of the updates that were discussed here are industry best practices. So that in and of itself kind of leans itself towards your question there. Otherwise, regarding some of the other proposed updates, I did not reach out to any other public utilities.
Lauren, didn't you say that HDR was involved in developing this?
That's correct. HDR was involved, and they are subject matter experts, so they were able to incorporate industry best practices as well, and help us navigate that process.
I can tell Commissioner Edwards that everywhere I go, in every meeting, HDR is being hired to do stuff. It seems like they're everywhere, so I'm sure that they've got a lot of reference points from other jurisdictions, I would guess.
They're also doing something on our solid waste, aren't they?
Yes, they are, Commissioner.
Yep. Okay. Same group. No, I think the presentation was excellent. Actually, a few of my questions were actually answered before I was able to ask them. Things like updating the code to match the RCWs and those type of things. So, no, I think you made a good presentation on it. I have to admit, I don't know all the ins and outs of everything you're talking about. My only concern would be if there's anything in here that other jurisdictions have kind of run into and said, well, this part didn't work too good, and we had to make a change there. I'm just trying to get it all done at once, because I think that's what you're looking for is efficiencies. So if you and your team and Jennifer have got this all figured out, it looks pretty good to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. I appreciate that. I'm glad your questions were able to be answered throughout the presentation as well.
Commissioner Mejia?
No questions.
I got a question about the monthly base rate, just so I understand that on slide number 19 there.
Certainly.
So, like with law, they do for residential customers, they do a flat fee. So I guess I'm wondering, like, this monthly base rate, is this applying to residential and commercial, or just one or just the other? And then am I to understand that with the 6 highest months, so your rate is kind of flat for a while, but then it floats if your 6 highest months over the last 12? I mean, can you explain how this whole system works of the monthly base rate?
And I'll probably have to turn it over to you, Karen, so that you can answer some of that. And I would like to apologize ahead of time. I meant to include that this monthly base rate updates only apply to our commercial customers. That is a feedback we received from the last briefing that I did not get into this slide, so I'd like to apologize for that. Karen, are you?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Torin. So yes, that's exactly right. This is only applicable to our commercial and industrial customers, which are primarily in Grand Mound. We have, which are about 7% or less of our total customer base. We do have a couple in the Boston Harbor area. So in answer to your question, Commissioner, we currently calculate the commercial base rate on an annual basis, and that it is set for an entire year based on the prior month's usage. But right now, it's a very complicated calculation required by the code based on a certain amount exceeding the ERUs purchased. And so what we're proposing is a more streamlined, understandable calculation based on the average of the 6 months. And so again, we would be doing this on an annual basis based on the usage for the prior year.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. Okay, anything else from the board regarding these just questions on the presentation?
No, sir. I think they've covered it pretty good.
So you need, similar to the last presentation, you need the board's concurrence to move this forward, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay, I see 2 thumbs, and Commissioner Edwards, you 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you got your direction.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
And a good job.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
With that, this board work session is adjourned. Thank you.